It's not who gets in the first word that counts, but who gets in the last word. Now, the guys that always get in the last word, brothers Tom and Dave.
You come in here with a skull full of mush, and if you survive, you leave thinking like a lawyer.
Well, Big Brother Tom, welcome here to the June 11th edition of The Last Word as we start off this wonderful Monday morning.
That's right. Thank you all for starting off your week with Tom and Dave.
And that's what I mean when I say the first shall be last.
That's right.
And the last shall be first. That's how you start your week off.
I have a comment later on. Remind me to bring up about the name of our show. But we need to, given all the turmoil of the last week, we need obviously to settle your tummies out there.
And you know why it's called turmoil? Because they tried to cut his term off, but the liberals are saying that it was well oiled that Walker wouldn't be recalled.
Should be term
oil.
Should be term foil.
Term foil.
Because their attempt to limit it as term was foil.
Oil. Yeah.
Anyway, so we want you to have a little chuckle. Now this, we're pointing our rapier or our épée.
Sounds dirty.
Or our fencing foil, to use the term, at married people. Now, this one takes a little long, so we're only going to have one tummy chuckle.
Yeah, but are we going to offend both sides so we'll have no audience?
Oh,
we'll have single people as an audience.
That's right. Or divorced.
Okay.
Or widowed. Okay. Jack wakes up with a huge hangover after attending his company's Christmas party. Now, he's not normally a drinker, but the drinks didn't taste like alcohol at all. He didn't even remember getting home from the party. He didn't remember how he got home. And as bad as he was feeling, he was wondering if he did something wrong. He had to force himself to open his eyes, and the first thing he sees is a couple of aspirins next to a glass of water on the side of the table. And next to them, a single red rose. Odd. Jack sits up and sees his clothing in front of him, all cleaned and pressed. He looks around at the room and sees it's in perfect order, spotlessly clean, and so is the rest of the house. He takes the aspirins and cringes when he sees a huge black eye staring back at him from the bathroom mirror. Then he notices a note hanging on the corner of the mirror written in red with little hearts on it and a kiss mark from his wife in hooker red lipstick.
Ooh.
Well, you guys know what kind hooker red is.
Oh, yes, we do.
Honey, breakfast is on the stove. I left early to get some groceries to make you your favorite dinner tonight. I love you, darling. Love, Mary. Well, he stumbles to the kitchen, and sure enough, there's a hot breakfast, steaming hot coffee, the morning newspaper. His son is also at the table eating, and Jack asks, Son, what happened last night? He says, well, you came home after 3 o'clock, drunk and out of your mind. You fell over the coffee table and broke it. Then you puked in the hallway and got that black eye when you ran into the door. Confused, he asked his son, so why is everything in such perfect order and so clean? I got a rose, breakfast is on the table waiting for me. And his son says, oh, that. Well, Mom dragged you to the bedroom, and when she tried to take your pants off, you screamed, leave me alone, I'm married.
Yep, so, there they go. Okay.
So
I'm not sure which I would
remember you guys, the next time you come home a little under the weather and your wife tries to help you to bed, scream you're married, and that's what you can have the next morning.
That's right.
Now, the shameless teaser.
Mind trap.
Okay, now this one is not like that easy one with written on the front and back of the ship. Neon Slick is traveling in his new sports car from the city of Proton to the city of Electron. The distance between the two cities is 1,000 kilometers, so you know there's probably somewhere in Europe. When Neon reached the halfway point, he realized he'd been averaging 100 kilometers an hour. How much faster would Neon have to travel if he wanted to average 200 kilometers an hour for the entire trip?
Let's see what happens.
So think about that, and we'll give you the answer.
Now, you know what this week is, Tom? You know, because I discussed it with you.
What is this week?
It is National Flag Week.
Because
June 14th is designated as Flag Day. Mm-hmm. And what's supposed to happen is that during National Flag Week, the president is supposed to issue a proclamation
that's not
urging U.S. citizens to fly the American flag during this week. So
he'd probably want to tell you don't do it because it'd be offensive.
It'd be offensive to the Iranians.
All kidding aside, do you know after 9/11 there was a fire station in Florida, and I forget which one. But they were flying an American flag from their fire engine when they were making calls, and they were told to take it off their fire engine because it was offensive to Muslims.
That figures. I'm not surprised. Anything happens. But just be a little bit of history over here that the June 14th commemorates the adoption of the flag of the United States, which happened that day by resolution on June 14th. Resolution above the Second Continental Congress in 1777 is when we adopted the flag, and it's also the birthday of the United States Army.
That's right. George Washington asked Betsy Ross if he'd sew an American flag for him, and she says, "So what?"
Better than so who. But we're not going to get into that today. Let's just stay away from that one. That'll come up for another show. So we are urging all of our patriotic listeners out there, and we are sure that you are all patriots. It's Flag Week. It's going to be Flag Day, June 14th. Fly your flag. And in honor of that, we're going to have a little word from one of the most famous songs dealing with that grand old flag.
Who's not sung by a dirty rat.
No, not this one.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on that grand old flag. Around the flag, let us rally round the flag. We took the red from the flame of dawn, the dawn of a new nation. And the white was the white of the snow at Valley Forge. The blue was the blue of the free, open sky. And the stars were the 13 sisters by the sea who built their home and called it liberty.
To symbolize the spirit.
Right!
The spirit of freedom.
Right again! That's the spirit!
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgotten, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
That's it. You're the grand old flag, and that's what we want everyone to do. Fly the flag this week, and make sure you especially do it on June 14th. Let's not forget. Let's not forget what it stands for.
We also need to now, our older, more wizened listeners know that was James Cagney.
Yes.
Yes. But for you younger people, and we're going to assume, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that we have people under 60 who listen to us.
I hope so.
And they may well not have been educated by their parents as some of the old great movies and the old great actors. That was James Cagney, who, amongst other things, shoved a grapefruit in the face of Mae, what's her name?
Not Mae West.
Public Enemy #1. No, not Mae West.
Oh.
But was a great actor in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So that's your education course from the Laz Brothers today.
That's right. A little bit of history. I think we have to remember those who forget the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it.
That's right. And he's also famous for always being quoted, "You dirty rat, You dirty rat.
For those of you who on YouTube, I'll bet you. I haven't done it myself, but I bet you on YouTube there's probably enough James Cagney stuff to look up regarding that.
And that was from James Cagney playing George M. Cohan.
Who wrote that song? Who wrote the Grand Old Flag and wrote Over There.
Where did he write it?
Here. We're going to do it again.
He wrote that song over there. Where?
In New York, yeah. See? Over there.
I was going to say, who wrote it? No. Cagney wrote
You stay away from that. You can't do that. Who wrote it? Over there. Yeah. First base. Okay. That's right. We're going to do it again, Tom. We're going to spend a whole show laughing about this.
No, we won't.
No, we won't.
This is serious business.
Yes.
Wipe that smile off your face.
You can't fight in here. This is the war room. That's right. Oh, we'll be back on AM 560 WIND with Intelligent Talk from The Last Word. We will be right back.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word. Tom and Dave.
Hey, we are back here, and now we're going to be getting a little serious, along with perhaps some tongue-in-cheek, but actually I'm kind of serious about it.
I could never take my tongue out of my cheek, so I don't know how you do it.
Scott Walker last week survived. I don't care.
Survived, huh?
He was highly retained.
Yes.
Highly retained. And I don't know how many of you people did what Dave and I did. We went up to Wisconsin and we registered on Tuesday.
Why not? And we know what? It was our intent to live there for an hour or two.
Yeah. And then after we voted, we said, no,
changed our mind. We don't want to be here.
No. So we did not really. All kidding aside, we did not. But I happened to be watching some of them as they were covering the results.
Isn't that a movie, Them? Wasn't Them that movie?
And you remember I told you I wanted to bring up something?
Yes.
Okay. I happened to be watching Lawrence O'Donnell on, I think it was CNBC.
MSNBC or CNBC?
No. Well, he was interviewing, amongst others, Rachel Maddow.
Oh.
And what I was going to bring up is what I want to do is we're going to have to find a patent attorney or an intellectual property law attorney, and I want to copyright the name of our show.
The Last Word.
The Last Word. Because Lawrence O'Donnell of television, his show is called The Last Word. Now, I suggest if we copyright The Last Word,
confusion in the marketplace,
then we're going to have confusion in the marketplace. We are going to sue Lawrence O'Donnell in federal court for infringing and taking our name.
Unless he agrees to vote for unless he agrees to endorse Romney, then we'll let him go.
then we'll see. And I'll tell you, we'll be with Hannity and all those other guys.
Yeah, that's right.
But seriously though, folks. So
we're trying that again.
At the time, I'm
not doing a very good job of it.
At the time I'm watching this, the polling numbers were showing Scott Walker 60-40. And O'Donnell asks Rachel Maddow, how do you explain Scott Walker squeaking by with a victory tonight? And I thought to myself, how could you tell me a 60-40, a 20-point differential is a squeaker? I mean, I ultimately came down to the, what was it, 53-47?
Yeah, 53-47.
But still, 6 points is a lot of points. It's more than he beat Barrett by the first time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's an increase. It was an increase.
But it's a squeak. And then, of course, there was that business by Ed Wood. What was that comment to his?
Oh, the end of democracy as we know it, I think, or the end of democracy now.
Yeah, because what happens
they lost.
They lost. So it's okay to bus people from Chicago, all the union people, and bus them up to Madison.
They busted in from.
And I know. I mean, I have interesting family meals with my son-in-law. We don't talk about politics because he's union, his dad's union, his uncle's union, his grandfather was union. And they went up to Madison last year.
No, we're not Confederates. We're union, too.
And So it's okay for the union people to cross state lines to show support for a candidate. But if Republicans come across state lines and donate money, that's terrible. It just shows you that money, that what we've learned tonight, Rachel, I think is just that if you have a lot of money, you can win an election. Now, this is being said during a time when the great leader of the Democratic Party doesn't have, what's the Spanish word? I think we could say it in Spanish without getting in trouble with the FCC. Doesn't have the cojones to come into this struggle and endorse Barrett. He can fly over and go to he can have dinner in Chicago for $38,000 a plate.
He can tweet.
He can go to California and raise money. And he's it's not a question of him having lots of money to show that he can run a big campaign. And he's gone on record telling the congressman, you guys are on your own. Don't expect any help from my campaign finance committee. I need all the money myself. Now, again, why is it that it's not a question of money buying a big campaign when it's the Democrats who are spending big money? But if the Republicans spend money, it just goes to show you it's just a bunch of money to buy votes. It's got nothing to do with what the people want.
So are you saying that the people are so stupid that they can be bought? That they didn't think that the electorate is so dumb?
Well, I mean, you've got a guy who came in with a deficit and turned it into a surplus, and he's made more jobs in Wisconsin. And I understand some jobs have been lost, but jobs are lost all the time, and others are created, and when one door closes, another door opens. But the question is, did he do a bad job? And they were always talking about, well, he'd be the first governor to beat a recall. But the other two governors, I believe, were charged with criminal matters. Now, it's really different when you're going to say, let's have a recall because we disagree on the policy issues that this particular governor has taken. I mean, it's really chilling to say if I get elected and I start doing something from a policy standpoint that people don't like, that I can be recalled. And it's not a question of whether I committed a crime or not. You just don't like the way I'm doing the job. Well, that's what the next election's for.
Exactly. That's what the next election's for. Exactly. But I have to say, I shouldn't take a perverse pleasure in what happened on.
What kind of pleasure should you take?
Yeah, right. I guess a regular pleasure, Tom. I guess maybe there's another type, but I mean, watching Ed Schultz explode, whatever.
Ed Wood.
No, Ed Schultz. No, I'm talking about Ed Schultz.
Oh.
Ed Schultz.
Ed would, or maybe he wouldn't. I don't know.
I know. I bet he would. Will he make it? Bet he wouldn't.
Bet he won't.
Bet he won't. Just watching, I mean, he was stunned and shocked at these results. And the thing that I was pointed out to you earlier is how shocked he is that after Walker came into office, union membership in AFSCME, the public unions, fell from 62,000 to 28,000. Well, one thing he didn't discuss is why. Why did union membership fall? You think that maybe after these people were released from having to belong to a union they may not have wanted, that 40,000 that left may have thought that being part of a union is not a good thing.
And having the money taken out involuntarily.
Yeah. So what was wrong with it? And that's the one thing he didn't point out. He made like, oh, Scott Walker did this and he busted the union. Well, what stopped? There's 28,000 people in Wisconsin still belonging to the union.
No, he didn't.
So what stopped people from staying in?
He didn't bust the union. He says you don't have to belong to it if you don't want to.
Well, that's my point.
And that's not union busting.
No, that's not union busting. That's right.
That's giving
right.
people a choice, which I thought is what this country's all about. But
well, in some places, yes. Some places, no, I guess.
and then gives you an idea of what's going on when Tom Barrett gave his concession speech, and he was leaving his party, his not party with a small p, but party with a capital P, and one of his quote unquote supporters slapped them in the face.
Well, and that was because he said that, and it's probably because he conceded before she said that people had the chance to finish up their votes.
Yeah, but you're getting calls in from all your strategic places. You know where you're running strong, where you're not running strong.
Oh, yes.
And what's ultimately going to happen. You're not going to tell me that affected any polling.
Oh, absolutely not, Tom. Absolutely not. But it was just a nice thing to see. And as far as I know, Tom, are we going to have elections in November this year or not? Are they still taking place?
I hope so.
As far as I know, they are. I mean, I haven't seen democracy end. I mean, to me, if you're going to say democracy is over, that means we're elections. No more free elections.
You're right. You're right.
So I'm presuming that Mr. Wood meant that we're not going to have free elections anymore. That's over with. Which he should be happy about. Wouldn't that mean Obama would stay in office if we got rid of elections?
Did I tell you I was listening the other day to Steve Cochran, and he was talking about the drones and all, and it really makes it tough on the Al-Qaeda job recruiters.
Oh yes, yeah. Go on.
Well, actually, it really doesn't. I mean, I take issue with Steve. I mean, if I'm going to be a recruiter for Al-Qaeda, I mean, I'm selling the point that there's a possibility for quick advancement.
Yeah.
At the way that we're taking out the top people, you could move up to number 2 real fast.
And you can get, well, even better yet, you can get to quicker martyrdom, so you can get to those 72 virgins. Of course, the only trouble is they're only a virgin once, right? You only have sex 72 times, and you're done. Then it's just old hat again for all eternity. Back here again on AM 560. Intelligent Talk. Maybe.
They're lawyers, so you know they'll always have the last word. Here's Tom and Dave.
Well, now that you know what happened in the world.
And that the world is still here.
That's right. I would like to draw an analogy. You know, Tom Brokaw wrote a book talking about the greatest generation, the World War II people. And I told you that one time where this fellow was talking to Brokaw's mom about hooliganism around Halloween, and his mother had said, "Oh, come on, Bill, don't you remember when you were 17? What were you doing?"
I miss that type of talk.
And he looked at her. He says, "I was in a landing craft approaching Guadalcanal."
Yeah.
Now that's the difference between a 17-year-old of the greatest generation and any of them since. But the greatest generation is talked about in terms of the sacrifices and things that they made to save this country. And I would suggest that we'll never achieve that status, but this November gives us the closest opportunity to save our country as it was originally thought about as a democracy and a free society with a free economy, laissez-faire, and making a decision. Do we want our country the way it was founded, or are we wanting to have a nanny state socialism?
Right. Talking about this November.
If you're going to vote, really consider what you're talking about if you pull a Democratic lever for president or for any other office for that matter. Because, like we've said before on the show, it's not your folks' Democratic Party anymore.
Yeah, we were there. We left. And speaking of the Democratic Party, speaking of the difference between what's going on in Wisconsin, where they now have a budget surplus, and what's going on in Illinois, where we have a big budget deficit. Last week, I believe in the Tribune, there was a nice little article written by John Cass.
No. What? That was the one about
Boss Madigan.
Oh,
that's what I'm talking about.
John Cass was Boss Madigan. I thought you were talking about. There was an issue in the Trib on Tuesday, an article by Dennis Byrne, and he was talking about Madigan with the pension shifting. And I never really thought about that point of view. He begins his column by saying, why should the cost of teacher pensions in, say, Lake Forest be shoved onto taxpayers in, say, Carbondale or other parts of Illinois? It seems unfair if a suburban school board has the power to negotiate pension benefits for its teachers and staff, then those districts ought to eat the cost and not spread it over the taxpayers for the rest of the state. And I never really thought of it in those terms, because I just figured if you're going to shift the cost, what you're doing is making a double tax. Now,
No, not
the
quite.
thing would be, I don't have a problem shifting it to the local school districts if you're going to give a concomitant decrease in state income tax for the increase in property tax. And for those of you in the southern part of the state outside of our radio coverage, concomitant means along with at the same time. Kind of like Russia's Rio Linda.
Not communist, not communist.
Concomitant.
Yeah.
So if you're going to shift it and make the local districts pay for their own pension benefits, I don't have a problem with that. But the problem I have is in Madaganistan, what's going to happen is Mike would shift it to get it off the state's back, but he'd keep the same amount of money coming in, and then that would wind up being a double
That would
tax.
be a shadow. That would be a shadow tax increase.
That's right.
Is what would happen.
So if you want to, Mike, Speaker Madigan, if you're listening, if you want to pass the pension shift, that's fine, so long as you cut down on the income tax to go along with it.
And speaking of the amount of money that is available for such things as
Keep your mouth by the mic. You're not supposed to turn yourself away.
I know. Just want to get the button over here.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how many people know this, but you can go to the Illinois Board of Elections website, and you can look up reports from every candidate and every committee, not federal. Federal has their own site, but this is for states, regarding how much candidates take in, how much candidates spend out. And if Mike Madigan wants to be helpful, perhaps as I'm looking at his detailed expenditures over here, perhaps he didn't need to, let's see, on February 24th, spend $9,300 on Chicago Bulls tickets. On January 1st, spend, on January 3rd, spend about $88,000 on Chicago Cubs tickets. And for you Southsiders who think that he should be for the Sox, he only spent a measly $17,000 on Sox tickets.
Piker.
So certainly he could have taken that money and I think done something a little more with it than spend about that amount of money on tickets. Because
but as you
I'm sure
point
it's
out-
not for him. I'm sure it's not for him for the year.
But as you point out, what happens is people don't give to the Democratic Party; they give to the chairman, and then he doles it out and creates his political debt.
Well, considering that his expenditures for the period of time from January 1st, 2012 to March 31st, 2012 was $544,000 and 504 cents. And guess what? He does not have any real opposition that he has to spend that type of money on. So what's happening out there, and we're going to get back to this after the break, is Emperor Madigan basically is taking the money. You want to know why we call him Boss Madigan? You want to know why we call him Emperor Madigan? Because he has the power to bring in all this money into his campaign, and then he doles it out to the others. And that's how things get controlled. And I think that is something that is much worthy of discussion when we come back at the other side of the break as to why our state is in such trouble with actions like this and people going along with it. So I'll be back for more Intelligent Talk on AM 560 WIND, The Last Word.
Didn't get enough of your family for the holidays? Here's two brothers you can always count on for the last word. Tom and Dave.
All right, before we get back to the Emperor of Madaganistan, we need to clear up the shameful tease of Mind Trap. And once again, Neon Slick is traveling in his new sports car from the city of Proton to the city of Electron. The distance between the two cities is 1,000 kilometers. When Ned reached the halfway point, he realized he'd been averaging 100 kilometers an hour. How much faster would Neon have to travel if he wanted to average 200 miles an hour for the entire trip?
And the answer is?
The answer is Neon would have to teleport himself. You see, in order for Neon to average 200 kilometers an hour for the entire trip, he would have to travel at 200 kilometers an hour for 5 hours. But at the halfway point, he'd already used up his 5 hours.
Oh.
So because of this, the only speed he could have driven to the average 200 kilometers an hour would be instantaneous. If you did anything other than that, you fell into the mind trap.
Now, I wonder if, who's the state rep over in Fermilab? Who's our state rep?
Mike Fortner?
I wonder if send him one to Fortner. I'd like to see if Fortner would get that one.
Well, I'll have to have Fortner on here.
Yes, indeed. And getting back to our report on Emperor Madigan, other interesting things that people should know and take a look at is that, let's see, at the beginning of the year, Madigan had funds available of $1,009,000. And his Friends of Madigan campaign received in the last 90 days $208,000. And his expenditures were $557,000, which means that at the 31st, which is the last reporting period. Well,
he's not a millionaire anymore.
He's not in the top 1%.
I have
I
a
guess.
tag day now.
He still has $661,000 left to spend, which is not a bad little amount, Tom. Not a bad little amount at all. And then you got the 13th Ward Democratic Organization, which has $607,000.
Would that be his ward?
No, yeah, that's coincidentally. Coincidentally, 13 Ward. So Mikey has $1.2 million alone of one person who is available to spend money in the state. And that gets us talking
when
about
he
the
helps
difference.
you in your campaign, Mikey expects that after you
That's
win,
right.
you'll stay with Mikey.
So let's compare. What is Mike Madigan doing for the people of this state? I mean, he's enriching himself, and you know something, Tom, in a certain way. I don't blame him, because he has been elected time after time since 1982. I believe 80 or 82 was his first time of election, and people have kept reelecting him. He's kept on being reelected speaker, and through the time he has built this up, and he's gotten it to a beautiful working machine. Now, I don't know who in Illinois doesn't know that, but are the people going to get to the point where they're going to say, this is enough?
Well, look at what he did to the woman who ran against him in the primary.
Which is what?
He stomped on
Oh,
her.
yeah. Well, I don't even know if that was...
I'm talking about like the way they used to do it in the old days.
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah, well, I think he grew up under Mayor Daley. I mean, no, I think he was the first Mayor Daley. I think he was elected after Richard J. died, but he's still...
Well, it's not a question of
No, it doesn't
when you're
matter,
elected.
actually.
It's a question of where it is when you're learning and how you do it and all. That's what's important. Anyway, are we done on the chairman of Madaganistan?
Well, just to say that we've been re-electing and electing him again, despite and he's getting richer and richer and richer, and the state's getting
The
poorer
rich
and poorer.
get richer and the poor
Yeah,
get
he's part
poorer.
of it. He's part of it. He's
In
part
the
of
meantime.
it. He's part of the 1%, or at
I
least
guess
10%.
he should be taxed. He should be taxed. He should be paying luxury tax. He should pay his fair share.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
So that's what we have to say right now.
I
about
need to know if any of our listeners out there know Tiffany Rent. If any of you know Tiffany
yes.
Rent, please have Tiffany email us at thelazword@yahoo.com. Now, for those of you who don't know Tiffany Rent was with her boyfriend or fiance, Joseph Hobbs. Tiffany parked in a handicapped spot and stayed in the vehicle while Joseph went to get something at Walgreens. A Chicago police officer gave her a ticket for parking in a handicapped spot, despite the fact that she was still in the vehicle. She thought it was and decided to tear up the ticket and throw it in the officer's face. Now, there was a guy played for the Bears years ago, Virgil Carter. A lot of our people would know him, but you younger kids won't. Virgil Carter used the term called chicken bleep in reference to George Halas, because that's what the police engaged in afterwards. They then decided to issue her a new citation now for littering, which to me is chicken bleep.
That's right.
And when she refused to give information, she was getting in her car to leave, and they says, if you don't give us information and you try to leave so I can issue you a ticket for littering, I'm going to taser you. And she put the car in gear, and they tasered Tiffany Rent, who is 8 months pregnant. So I suggest she's rather obviously pregnant, and you ought to have some sense in that. So Tiffany is charged with some offenses, and her fiance, who tried to intervene and save her on his behalf, was arrested and charged. I'm sure he's probably got an obstructing charge. So if anybody knows Tiffany Rent or her husband, Joseph Hobbs, have an email to Laz Word, and let me see what we can do about representing her down and probably in Markham.
Yeah, Markham, yes.
Because it's sad. It's like the end of the movie Patton, where he says all glory is fleeting.
Yes.
You had everybody saying what a great job the police did after the NATO conference. And then you have Chicken Bleep like this, which shows that's right, Chief McCarthy, you did a great job, but all glory is fleeting.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it has to be a what have you done for me now situation, Tom.
So Tiffany Rent.
If you're out there or listening, or any friends are listening, have them call us. Have them write us. LazWord@yahoo.com.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
Well, you know, Tom, I want to get one more thing about my
Yes, I know, Tom.
Emperor Madigan. You know, Tom, very good, nice person, isn't he?
Prince of a fellow.
Interestingly enough, looking a little bit more into Mike Madigan's expenditures over here from his 13th Ward Democratic Organization Fund, let's see, on January 10th, February 18th, and March 8th, he paid, I mean, because you have to put down the purpose of what you're making the expenditure for.
On the D2s?
On the D2s, yeah. This was for prayers. There were payments 3 times to the Cynical Prayer Enrollment.
Is that CYNICAL?
No, not cynical, Tom. No, no, it's a cynical, CENACLE, Cynical Prayer Enrollment. And if you use the almighty internet and go to Cynical Prayer Enrollment, actually, it's
Is that in Warrenville?
Cynical Sisters. That's the Cynical Sisters.
They used to be
and
the
it says,
Cynical Retreat House.
Oh, it does say Warrenville. It says locations that have prayer enrollment cards and folders are Chicago, Houston, Metairie. I don't want to pronounce so many
Metairie
things.
and
Ronkonkoma, Vancouver, and Warrenville.
Metairie de New Orleans.
That's right. So I wonder if they were praying. I mean, we think prayers were offered for the primary election. Are they praying for Canada? Who's going to get elected or what?
No.
Oh my God, my Lord! Well, just a little afterthought over there. And I want to say that for all you people who oppose the. For all you people who think that church and state should be separated, you better send word to Mike Madigan to stop doing prayer enrollment.
Yeah, God's not for sale.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Did you see, Harry Smith? You know Harry Smith.
Yes.
Harry's an attorney in Glen Ellen, does some village prosecutions and stuff. Harry represented Kathy Savio in her divorce case. Was it Kathy Savio? And
Was it?
well, you can't keep track of which one. But divorce attorney Harry Smith may be able to testify that Drew Peterson's third wife confided to him that Peterson would kill her, a Will County judge ruled last Wednesday. But only after the judge questioned Smith alone about information that he has so far withheld, because Harry's properly said, a lot of the stuff that she told me is privileged. So the question is, Judge Bermilla is going to conduct an in-camera, and for those of you in the southern part of the state,
Doesn't mean Kodak.
It's got nothing to do with pictures. It means in his chambers, just him alone with Harry and a court reporter for purposes of the record. But he's also indicated that if he's going to be letting Harry testify, Harry's going to testify to everything in the conversations, and then you can't only have part of it, and some of it will be privileged. So,
okay. I have to say, I'm a little bit perplexed about that one time regarding. I mean, after a person dies,
who's going to claim the privilege?
That's right. That's right. Who's going to claim the privilege?
And that was borne out by Jackie Wilson.
Jackie Wilson. How's that?
And that's not the singer, but one of the Wilson brothers, who was represented by Dale Coventry, and I can't think of his partner. I think it was Jamie. God, I can't think of Jamie. I can see him. He was with the public defender in DuPage for a while. But he had confessed to murders that somebody else was convicted for, and he told them, and they couldn't say anything because of the attorney-client privilege. But after Jackie Wilson died in prison, they came out with his confession to the other prison.
Oh, I remember that.
And they caught the flack because they didn't
that.
Break the privilege sooner. But that's what the attorney-client privilege is all about. And
same thing.
they're also going to let the minister testify, and the minister's going to testify that the fourth wife told him that following, so it's going to be hearsay out the wazoo. But we might even go down and
we might
cover
cover that. We may cover that and bring you the latest and understanding of it back here on the Last Word. And we're closing out here on AM 560 AM.
Thanks for starting your week with us.
Coming up on 1 o'clock.
Thanks for starting your week with us, and we'll see you next week. Well, actually, we won't see you. We'll talk with you next week on The Last Word.